everybody. I am John Horovitz. I am the founder and president of Atrium Unlimited Consulting and also the host of the Boon of Wireless podcast. We're here today to preview an exciting webinar that we're going to have at MVNO Nation Americas. Will be this April 27th through 29th in Miami, Florida. MVNO Nation will be making their second appearance in the United States after a terrific and very successful show last year in Miami. And if you weren't there, hopefully this year you will get to see the energy and the excitement and the collaboration that this conference brings with a lot of the movers and shakers in the industry from all facets, from MVNOs to carriers to support people, enablers, etc. So it's going to be a terrific show, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you there. Also, I will be moderating a debate on day one called Getting It Right, how to balance the MVNO, MNO, MVNE, and MVNA relationships. And on day two, I'll be moderating a panel that's called From Retail to Digital and Beyond, how your distribution strategy can make or break your MVNO. So I look forward to seeing you all there. I'm joined by four terrific industry veterans that will be participating in the webinar with me. Very quickly, we're going to ask them to go around the horn and introduce themselves, but let me give you a quick intro to them. First, Jeff Moore. Jeff, give us a little wave there so we know which one you are. There you are. Jeff Moore from Wave 7 Research. We have Gerry Christensen from Mind Commerce. Also with us today is Alan Proithis from Capstone Partners and Darius Allen from Rockstar Mobile. So I'm going to ask all of our participants to give a brief introduction to who they are, their company, and how they serve the MVNO and MNO community. So why don't we start with Jeff Moore. Jeff, how are you today?
Doing great, John. Thank you. So, yeah, my name is Jeff Moore, and I'm the principal of Wave 7 Research. And Wave 7 Research is a company that provides the story about what's really going on in wireless. So we have four areas of coverage. One is prepaid competition. Second is postpaid competition. Third is smartphone competition, and fourth is fixed wireless competition. And I'm in Kansas City, and I spent 13 years working for Sprint, sort of mastered the dark art of figuring out what all the competitors are up to. And so what we do is original research. We find out what's really going on well beyond the headlines. We actually do store checks. We do checks of advertising databases. We talk to sources. So we sort out the real story about what carriers are doing, and we put that together on a syndicated basis, and companies subscribe to our research.
Great. Thanks, Jeff. Gerry Christensen, why don't you give us a little overview of who you are and what your company does?
Sure thing. Thanks, John. So Gerry Christensen, and I'm representing Mind Commerce, which is a strategic advisory firm. We focus on emerging and disruptive technologies, artificial intelligence being one of them. And I'm going to be moderating a panel at the event, and that panel is focused on AI. In fact, the title is Future-Proofing Your MVNO, How Your Businesses and Your Customers Can Benefit From, but also be wary of the latest features of AI and cloud native. And I think that's particularly poignant and important, John, because AI can be both a blessing and a curse, especially if it's implemented the wrong way. It can be a curse, but certainly has a lot of potential value for MVNOs. And one of the things we're going to be talking about in that panel is how MVNOs can use AI to differentiate themselves from their underlying MNO. Because as we know in the MVNO space, you definitely don't want to compete on price alone or anything else that's going to make you vulnerable from a competition perspective. So I'm very much looking forward to that.
Are you going to discuss my favorite movie from 1986 where AI got out of control and took over?
That may come up. I'm sure there'll be some anecdotes and things that we talk about, but we'll see, John. I'm not quite sure.
For our younger audience, just remember, I'll be back. Give us an overview of what's going on there.
Hey, John. Again, I'm Alan Proithis from Capstone Partners. We're a strategic advisory firm that works with investors, boards, and tech companies, advising them on growth strategy, M&A, and value creation, really around AI, private 5G, and IoT. And so I'm really excited, along with my friend and investment banker, James Trino from Drakestar Partners. We're going to be having a conversation of a session titled Navigating the 2026 MVNO Deal Landscape. Really, is it time to sell your company, buy, recap, or hold? And if you look at what's happening in the MVNO space, MVNOs are not a new thing, but we're really transitioning to a different phase right now for the industry where you've seen some very large investments over the past year or so in some of these companies. But the emphasis is changing now a little bit away from growth at any cost to how do you actually make money doing this in a very complex environment of different geographies and applications. So we'll be having that conversation. James, from a banker perspective, and myself as a person who's run both VC and PE funded companies, and also been an officer in a publicly traded company.
Great. Thank you. And when we get a little bit deeper into it, I want to touch base with your feelings on the MNOs, the carriers, buying their most successful MVNOs and making them brands. That's a topic that our keynote speaker is going to discuss as well, and he's very vocal about it. But make sure we circle back and touch that piece, okay?
Okay.
And Darius Allen, saved the best for last from Rockstar Mobile. How are you, Darius?
John, how you doing?
Good.
Doing
Good to
great.
see you.
Good
Good.
seeing you too again. So yeah, Rockstar Wireless, we are a MVNO that's focused on branding and innovation to kind of help the adoption for MVNOs in the US kind of catch up with the rest of the world. We believe that the adoption of the MVNOs have so much potential and growth in the US market, and it's kind of stagnated to the point to where we need to kind of all work together and form an alliance and help a strategic partnership, have a more of a strategic partnership with the MNOs. So it's more than just, offering wireless at a low cost. It's about innovation and branding to help the whole adoption so we all can grow together.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you all for those very good introductions. Um, let's talk a little bit about individually and as a group, some of the things that you'll be speaking about on your panels and networking with your colleagues out there. Let me start with you, Darius, again. You're on my panel about getting it right, and that's the
Yeah.
balance between the MVNOs and the MNOs, and again, like I said, the aggregators, the um, enablers. You had some stops and starts with Rockstar, and tell us about the relationship, oh, some of the road bumps, but also the pros and the good things that can come from a solid relationship with these entities.
Yeah, so the pros are is that everyone's all on the same page. We will all want each other to win, all right? The MNOs want the MVNOs to win. The MVNOs want the MNOs to win. It's how do we go about doing this? We had a few stops and starts, and that comes with technology and innovation. So, how do you scale and innovate at the same time? Normally, when the normally when someone scale, they think is okay, let's make a cookie cutter solution so it's easier to scale. But you can't scale without innovation. And so that's been some of our hiccups with starting and stopping is that having the right technology solutions and right innovation to kind of push the brand forward so you can differentiate yourself. It's not just a cookie cutter approach that's going to work in this market right now. We need to be able to scale and innovate, and MNOs need to allow MVNOs to do so. And so within doing that, you have to have the right technology partners, the right concepts, and the right branding to push things forward.
Alan, you are in the M&A world. Are you seeing MVNOs starting the business with a exit strategy from the beginning, or are you seeing MVNOs that are out there that are in it for the long term? And there's a handful that have survived a very long time. Consumer Cellular, Red Pocket, H2O. But then there's others that, like I said earlier in the introduction, that whether it was their thought or it was the thought of the carrier, they're getting bought by uh, their home network. And again, small ones and large ones, up to TracFone that Verizon spent, what, $7 billion on. So when you speak to an MVNO that's going to be launching or is in their first couple of years, where are they with a mindset of long term or exit?
I think there's a huge difference between the consumer side and the IoT side. I think that when people go into these things, they tend to see a market opportunity, regardless of which side of the coin you're on in that. But if you think back to the early days of cellular, when we used to call them resellers before MVNOs existed, anytime you hit to 100,000, you get bought out by your main supplier, right?
Right,
And so
right,
we sort of see that trend continuing because, we're in a very mature consumer markets now. And so you look at your cost of customer acquisition compared to a company acquisition, and you do the math. I think on the IoT side, it's a little bit different, and they don't often pre-plan their exit, but again, they see a market opportunity for a segment. And if you think about what's going on with AI right now, data is more valuable every day, and we talk about all these new AI applications in many industries. But guess what? If you don't have data, you really can't do anything with that AI. And so I think there's this very strong renewed interest on these different IoT segments because that's not a mature space like the consumer side. And you're seeing a much more dynamic and fragmented environment. This sort of looks like the early days of the consumer MVNO side.
okay. Okay, Gerry, you're the AI expert here in this group. Do you care to comment on that? Uh, what Alan and Darius have shared?
Well, clearly there's a need to differentiate whether you're looking at an exit strategy or whether you're looking at ongoing operations and monetization of your business. And so AI is certainly one of the ways of doing that. One of the things we're going to talk about in my panel session, though, is actually caution, because you don't want to rush headlong into AI just for AI's sake. We're seeing a lot of that. But so one of the things we're going to talk about is ROI. We're going to talk about leveraging AI to improve your automation, and doing it very thoughtfully. Setting up guardrails where it makes sense to do that, and also a lot of make versus buy type discussion, because a lot of folks automatically assume that you should automatically work with the hyperscalers, the AWSs, the Microsofts, the Metas of the world, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas if you take perhaps a more thoughtful approach, maybe you want to insource some of those things and
Right,
and necessarily use the large language models that we're all familiar with. So
right.
I think it fits very well from an economic perspective to consider how you're growing your business, how AI fits into that, and not just go headlong into it.
Mhm. Do you feel that people that are not embracing AI will be at a disadvantage, both short and long term?
Long term, definitely.
Yeah,
Short term, I think there's actually more danger in rushing in too quickly, quite frankly. I
okay.
think it makes a lot more sense to first look at your processes and procedures from an automation perspective and see not only where you can cut out cost, which is the major factor we're seeing with AI right now. And of course, the headlines, tons of people are
Yep,
being laid off. And
yep,
ironically, it's a lot of the hyperscalers. And of course, the scuttlebutt there is they're spending so much capital in AI that they need to free up
yep.
the cash flow by letting people go. Um, I'm not saying that that's necessarily going to happen in the telecom space with MVNOs and whatnot. But what I'm saying, though, is that you need to be careful that as you are freeing up your operational expenses, that you also look at things that are going to add a positive effect to your bottom line in terms of new features and improvements in terms of UX. User experience is very important. All the things that you would want to do anyway as an MVNO to make yourself stand out. That's a lot of things we're
Mhm.
talking about in our panel.
Good. I spoke to a lot of people that attended both Mobile World Congress in Barcelona and CES, and they said the main drivers of the show were first AI, second AI, third AI, and then fourth 5G. Um, so let me throw it over to Jeff. Um, from a dealer standpoint, and the research that you do, showing what's new, what's hot, who's popular, who's needs some help. How do you see the whole IoT piece, if at all, coming into the retail dealer door?
We're not yet really seeing that being a component of the retail experience. Right now, AI is something that's behind the curtain, something that we're seeing some of the providers use for things like customer care. I was at a conference recently, and one of the providers was talking about how they're using AI to enhance their customer service. So, which does not mean that you're actually dealing with a bot. It means that you're dealing with a human, but the human is being advised using AI as to how to handle the customer because the AI has some sense of what the customer's history is and what's likely to keep the customer happy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Darius, with Rockstar, I'm going to change gears a little bit. Can we properly label you as a celebrity focused MVNO, or is it more?
It's more, but definitely a celebrity MVNO because we have several celebrity back plans coming up this next quarter. We're going to make a big
Mm-hmm.
announcement at the show of
Good.
a new celebrity back plan. Our goal is to not have one celebrity on for our entire brand, is to give different celebrities different packages and different plans. So you may have a wireless plan for $50 with said celebrity that may have a AI bot that's actually trained to the celebrity, so you know exactly what this particular celebrity may like, what they like to eat, how they like to dress, or fashion tips, or even just personal tips on how they live their life. And you can ask that AI bot that particular question, and it can be embedded into the phone plan itself. So it's really using these celebrities and their engagement and their brand and their personality and build it into a particular plan. Some plan may have additional insurance. It may be a gamer creator that we're partnering with, and we're going to have a whole insurance package that's not just device insurance, but also cover gaming consoles, or it may be you may get discounted or pre-release music that was not released yet, or remix music,
Right.
or other different things that we package into it. So every plan will be slightly different, depending on the celebrity or creator and what their audience is looking for.
Will any of these celebrities be on hand in Miami?
I believe one will. I
Okay.
believe one will be the one that we're making an announcement with. They will actually make appearance at the show. So
Well, that's reason enough for people to show up,
yeah, it's gonna be exciting. I think people will like it.
right? Alan, what do you see in the MVNO space in the United States? What do you see some of the biggest the current challenges, I should say, and future opportunities? Where would you focus your efforts if you were a fledgling MVNO, a mature MVNO, or someone who's looking to jump into the business?
Well, the market penetration here is so high on the consumer side. I mean, I love what Darius was just talking about,
Yeah.
and in Pennsylvania, where I'm sitting, is 30 minutes actually from where Taylor Swift grew up. So I'm not expecting her in Miami, um, but the power of celebrity is absolutely amazing to do something like that. And I think that sort of captures how you have to differentiate it. You can't do it the old-fashioned way. You never have enough marketing dollars. You never have enough time to get scale. And this is a scale game now
Right.
and to do that customer acquisition. And so I think on the consumer side, you really have to figure out how you're going to do something new and innovative. And I think the IoT side is a little bit different. I think if you're enabling the use cases that provide the data that then feeds into AI that fundamentally shows, the standard three things in IoT: increase revenue, decrease cost, regulatory compliance. It's never been easier to do some of these things now with the application of all this AI software. And that's really where people are focusing, not the hand wavy stuff, but how do I specifically have a business impact, especially, given a little bit higher level of chaos in the markets than usual.
Yeah. You mentioned saturation. It's interesting on the podcast that I did yesterday. There's my selfish promotion. Um, while the market is saturated right now and wireless services have become a commodity, only with the purchasing of many large MVNOs by the carriers that we discussed earlier. Right now, the current MVNOs make up about 10% of the
Mhm.
340 million users out there today. So one would say that that's a runway for great opportunity for MVNOs. Another party would say that we've kind of prevented the MVNOs from growing because they're not MVNOs anymore. These are now brands of the big three. So it's interesting to try to balance that. And when people like Darius have a differentiator, which I preach, I'm dealing with three folks right now. They're going to be launching MVNOs with incredible different differentiators that hasn't been done yet. Obviously, I can't say too much, but they're going to be coming out this year shortly. Is it more of an opportunity, or is it a block by the MNOs to purchase everybody and control?
Well, it's a love-hate, right? Well, where does innovation happen in any industry right now? It doesn't happen in big
Right.
companies anymore.
Yeah.
95% of the innovation happens in small companies. So when you look at
Right.
the things you're talking about launching, it's the scrappy, creative people who are going to create these new exciting ideas. And then when those exciting ideas get to a certain level, it becomes attractive because the way I think about it is the big MNOs have outsourced new market definition to small new entrants. That's the way to think about it.
Okay. Gerry, care to comment on that, or?
Yeah, I think those are good comments. And one of the things I'm hoping that's going to come up during the event somewhere is discussion about the use of eSIMs for B2B MVNOs, because I think that may run counter to what you all were just saying in terms of the cannibalization. Because it's conceivable that, if you're a company and you don't want to have to issue a handset, you have a bring your own device plan, use an eSIM that could be assigned for your business number, then you kind of have the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
So let's say, for example, I'm a Verizon customer myself at the consumer level. I use my same telephone number for business interests. I'd love to
Right.
have a separate number on an eSIM, which could be via an MVNO, and do it that way. So and that could have a pathway towards acquisition for the parent company, perhaps the MNO. But I think there's a variety of things like that could happen that could keep the innovation train going, so to speak. And some of those could use AI, agentic AI specifically to automate the workflows around that. And so I'm hopeful that there's going to be some chatter about that at the event, not just in my panel session, but throughout. I'm going to be
Right.
for that.
Okay. Speaking of eSIMs, and I'll throw this one over to Jeff. It's become so easy now with eSIMs to change carriers. You just go online, and it's interesting that T-Mobile announced, and I've written about this and spoken about it. When you walk into a T-Mobile corporate store, and I'm sure some of the dealer stores as well, exclusive, they want you to use their apps in the store. They want you to use their technology and not tie up their salesperson. Have you seen in the mobile, Jeff, in the T-Mobile dealers? Have you seen that taking place? If you have, is it good? Is it confusing for the customer? Or
Well, John, thus far it hasn't been a major factor because it's something that they push very heavily, but it's not something that they necessarily impose as yet. And
okay,
we've been getting some queries from journalists about does this mean that T-Mobile, which currently has about 6,000 stores, are they going to start closing a lot of their stores? And so far, we're not seeing that. My firm actually puts out something called the Wave 7 Door Report, which goes into a comprehensive and quantitative look at U.S. wireless retail telecom. And there are about 33,000 telecom stores that are out there, and I'm referring to single brands, whether it's Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, Cricket, Metro, Boost, etc. There are about 33,000 stores. The number is really not shrinking overall. Slight shrinkage for postpaid, slight growth actually for prepaid, net of the total wireless growth. So we're still seeing, despite eSIM and despite the rise of apps such as T-Mobile has launched, we're still seeing retail telecom be strong as it was before.
So
okay.
Jeff, I'm gonna ask a quick question. Sorry to interrupt, but
That's okay. That's good,
I
Darius.
think there's an adoption period that's happening right now. So do you think it's gonna be a big shift, a paradigm shift once consumers get used to activating eSIMs on their own and not going to a store?
I think that you're right. There is something of a paradigm shift, and it will take time. But the reality is that telecom transactions are so complicated, and there's so many other things going on that it still makes sense to have a lot of retail commerce. Do I think that the number of stores, which we put at roughly 33,000 right now, and that doesn't include multi-carrier stores, do we think that number will fall over time with the rise of apps like T-Life? Probably. But so far, we're not seeing massive change. You have to remember that whenever you walk into a telecom store, for sure you're paying your bill, for sure you're adjusting your service, but also you may be considering internet service. You may be buying cases that'll match your phone. You may want the rep's opinion on something or expertise on something. You may have a business, and T-Mobile for Business or Verizon Business can be there to help your business. So there are many reasons why you walk into a telecom store, and we at Wave 7 Research continue to believe in telecom retail.
Yeah, I do too as well. John mentioned earlier we had some starts and stops, and one of those reasons was actually that adoption period. A lot of these new MVNOs are digital first or digital only MVNOs, and they're ignoring the whole retail distribution aspect of it. And I'm not sure if the adoption's quite there. And a lot of the market, like you're saying, are still used to going in store and have a physical SIM or going to talk to someone to actually help them activate a device or install the service. And so that's one of the things I want to talk about with the MVNOs, that a lot of MVNOs are thinking, because they've seen success of a few digital only or digital first in the MVNOs, that model is a model for 100% growth at this time. But I think it's a growth period and we need to get there. A lot of people are not talking about it.
Yeah, I agree with that. And if you want to go retail, and I think that you're completely right that there are too many MVNOs who are just happy enough to sell online. But I think that for most MVNOs, if you really want to be successful in a major way, you need some sort of retail presence. And you have essentially three paths you can take on that. One is to open up your own stores, and we're seeing Consumer Cellular open up about a store a week recently. We've seen Total Wireless now has more than 2,000 stores that they've opened up. I know they're part of Verizon, but they've opened up 2,000 stores, and there are others. And then another is the multi-carrier independent dealer channel. There are more than 7,000 stores out there where they sell multiple brands. They might sell Simple Mobile and Ultra Mobile and H2O and Gen Mobile, all from the same store. And then the third thing is national retail, which is always a difficult, is always an uphill battle, but that is an option for some MVNOs.
Yeah.
Hey, John, if I could jump in there just really quick about a comment about eSIMs and AI. And this is really sort of a cautionary thing. You all are probably aware that through physical SIMs, and I think this is going to happen even more so with eSIMs, they're actually a source of fraud when it comes to SIM farms. And so one of the things that part of my panel is going to be discussing is how we can use AI to monitor for fraud. And eSIMs is certainly one of those areas that bears the need for monitoring, so that if, for example, somebody buys some eSIMs and your typical consumer user or small to medium-sized business user, they're not going to be placing 1,000 calls a minute, right? So you can use AI to monitor that kind of thing and make sure that there's appropriate usage.
Great. Thank you for that comment. Okay, well, I think we have time to do one more thing and just talk a little bit about what you're hoping to get out of attending MVNO Nation, not only as an attendee, but also as a panelist or a moderator. And what are you looking forward to coming back with? So why don't we start with you, Alan?
Well, thanks, John. Well, I think just like some of the good folks on this call just talked about, you need retail because there's nothing like human interaction. I think the same thing goes for these conferences, and that you just through hallway conversations and interactions, you get a better sense of what's going on in the market. I think that's really important because, as I mentioned, my session with James Torino is really focusing on the state of, do you buy, sell, hold, or recap your business now based on the market? And the market conditions now are very different than they've been in the last few years, coming out of COVID, with the level of M&A, the level of strategic investment. So I think it's a real tipping point, as we go forward this year. So I'm just really looking to get a good sense of where the sentiment is on the ground.
Great. Thank you. Jeff, what are you hoping to see?
One thing I always do at these conferences is set up a lot of meetings, and invariably, I know a lot of the people who will be there. And it's always great to reconnect with people I know and build relationships. But for me, one thing that is always great about shows like this, and I'm sure will be fantastic for MVNO Nation, is learning what you don't know, the people that you don't know yet, the people that you should have relationships with, and you really don't come across these relationships any other way than by going to a conference like MVNO Nation. You meet people, you other people will introduce you to people, and you'll be able to build your network.
Great. Thank you. Darius.
I think, like everyone said, the in-person relationships, in-person connections are very valuable for this conference. And I really want to, hone in on having an alliance with other MVNOs and that relationship so we can all grow as a whole. We need to form some type of alliance so we can all work together and fight against the bigger giants and get this adoption rate up.
Yeah, it's interesting when you say fight against. It's the only business that I've ever seen where the MVNO is not only a customer, but they're a competitor
Yeah.
to their home network. So it's a interesting dynamic that somehow works. Okay, and Gerry.
Well, I'm looking to get a sense of the pulse of innovation within the MVNOs. And to me, there's really kind of three ways you compete. You can compete on price, you can compete on product, you can compete on service. Price is never a good idea because then you commoditize yourself. Product, if you're an MVNO, there's not as much differentiation capability there. But when it comes to service, especially if you focus on user experience, UX, there's a lot of things you can do there. And our particular panel, we're going to be talking about AI. And one of the things we're going to be talking about is how you can leverage AI to have a superior UX for your customers. And I think at the end of the day, that's a big differentiator for MVNOs. So I'm going to be looking for that type of innovation, not just with AI, but with everything in general.
Great, great. Well, listen, I think the comments and the concerns that the four of you have brought today, we're going to hopefully get some answers to and have good dialogue. No, not only in the panels and the debates, but the networking sessions and maybe even on the pickleball court on the last day at night if you're still there. But I want to thank all four of you for taking some time out. Everybody's very busy and everybody's getting ready for this event on top of our other day-to-day business. So I'm personally looking forward to seeing you folks again and looking forward to being with the team from MVNO Nation who does just a fantastic job all over the world, really, in putting these sessions together and really talking about things that are going to, at the end of the day, help MVNOs compete better, be more profitable, and get their product out there. And maybe they'll get bought one day by one of their carriers. So anyway, looking forward to seeing everybody. If you haven't registered yet for MVNO Nation, mvnonation.com. The 27th through the 29th of April at the Hyatt in downtown Miami. Okay, folks, we'll see you soon, and we'll continue this dialogue. Best of luck to everybody, and let's come prepared.